Good afternoon, everyone. I can see we are having good number of participants and the number is growing for the session. I would like to welcome our esteemed guest, Mr. Musarrat Hussain from Maruti Suzuki India, Mr. Mukund Rane from NWEN, Mr. Manoj Sharma from Adani Electricity, and Mr. Tom Verghese from FCA, that's Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. I would also like to welcome Dr. Sanjay Muthal, who is the CEO of Contempo, Dr. Kumar Mohanty, who will be moderating this session, and all our valuable participants. Welcome one and all to this interesting session on demystifying correlation of retention versus hiring, which is organized by KIT School of Electrical Engineering and Contempo. KIIT University, Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology, is a private institute deemed to be university, which is located in Bhubaneswar, Odisha. And it's been founded by Dr. Achyuta Samanta. KIIT offers undergraduate and postgraduate courses in engineering, biotechnology, medicine, management, law, computer application, rural management, fashion, film sciences, journalism, architecture, and sculpting. It was recognized as an Institute of Eminence in 2019. Recently, it also bagged top spot in ARIIA ranking among self-financed institute. Kalinga Institute of Social Science, KISS, is a sister concern of KIIT, which takes care of 30,000 underprivileged tribal students from KG to PG, which is completely free of cost. Contempo is a strategic partner to QuickTalk. Contempo started in 2018 as a knowledge management and today has transformed into a digital company which deals with knowledge and business solutions. Products and services under Contempo are leadership solutions, which includes executive search, assessments, talent listing, sourcing. We have business solutions, which are into digital transformation, e-procurement, and simulations. There's also a research and analytics wing, which is very strong function and acts as a foundation for all the products, solutions, and services that we offer. Going forward, I would like to welcome Dr. Kumar Mohanty, who is a moderator for today's session. Dr. Mohanty is a BTech and MBA from XIMB with 15 years of corporate experience in corporates like Jensen & Nicholson, Phenolux Cables as regional sales and product head. He is presently the Director of Corporate Relations and a professor in marketing. Over to you, Kumar.
Thanks, and must welcome all the panelists today. Thank you so much for sparing your time and coming today. We will be, of course, going in a sequential manner today, where we will be having each of the panelists talk, sharing their views on the theme, and then we have a question answer session. But before that, I would just like to say a few words about School of Electrical Engineering for KIT University. So School of Electrical Engineering has been one of the founding schools of the university since 1997. And as on date, School of Electrical Engineering has marched forward in a lot of industry academia collaborations with students well placed across many corporates. School of Electrical Engineering in brief has been trying to look at a lot of industry academia collaborations and has got a lot of thrust into areas like electric vehicles, into areas like power electronics, into areas like renewable energy, smart grid, energy audit, industrial automation. We have successfully run a solar GEP programs with a few corporates also last year. And over and above that, we have also set up a lab in collaboration with Schneider Electrical, which takes care of a training module in basic electricity to a high-end niche technology in the area of electrical energy. So this has been an industry academic collaboration that we had last year. We also have a lab with Siemens, Greentree, just to name a few, and the list is endless. And as we move forward in the coming few days, we look forward to collaborating with all of you in terms of ensuring a good, healthy academic collaboration with industry and with senior leaders like you. Gentlemen, if I were to talk about the theme that we have chosen today, where we are talking about demystifying the correlation between the hiring process and employee retention. To set the context, today when we talk about the hiring process, I'm sure we took a lot of parameters in the new normal as to how do we select the right candidate for the right job so that this particular employee that we hire today stays with us, is a satisfied employee. So when we talk about employee retention, I'm sure as we move forward, you will also be discussing about the fact that today for employee retention, what is important is a qualified and a satisfied employee. So when we talk about a qualified employee, I'm sure in the hiring process, you have different sets of parameters and different variables in which you select the right candidate for the right job. And when we talk about a satisfied employee, I'm sure a lot of variables like job fit, job culture, the working environment, employee engagement, all these variables play a very important role in terms of having a satisfied employee. So as we move forward, we'll try to understand that how does the metrics work in terms of having the right person for the right job and ensuring that the employee stays on. We reduce attrition. So for that, we will try to look at different ways. Is data, and I'm sure data is something which all of you in the corporates would be looking at big time. So is data important to understand attrition? When we talk about attrition, the whole idea is we're looking at retention. So I'll look at it from the other perspective. So to reduce attrition, how do we leverage data in terms of understanding if in terms of an attrition, what happened? So the what, the why, and the what next. What happened, which led to the employee going out? Why did it happen? And obviously going forward, what next? So I'm sure in this new normal, we try to collate all these views into the hiring process so that we have an employee who comes and stays with us for long. I'm sure the workplace, the dynamism in the workplace, the job fit, the job culture, the engagement that we have the employees to be with us, and more importantly, in this new normal, the work-life balance. So when we talk about the work-life balance, is it because in the new normal, is attrition going up? In the new normal, in terms of maintaining a work-life balance, what do the corporates do in terms of retaining their employees? Are few of the variables which we will talk across as we go forward. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce the panelists for today. And to start with, I'll start with Mr. Hussain. Mr. Hussain, thank you so very much, sir, for coming in today. He's the head leadership and HR transformation with Maruti Suzuki, of course, a household name for all of us. He's had more than 3 decades in corporate HR, plant HR, industrial relations, HR strategy, transformation, change management, learning and development, talent acquisitions, mergers and acquisitions, HR audit, just to name a few. And I'm sure all the audience today are going to benefit tremendously from Mr. Hussain's deliberations, given the fact that he has a whole host of experience across so many fields. He's worked with Aisha Tractors, he's worked with HEG Limited, VDAG, KHD, Humboldt, just to name a few. Mr. Hussain, welcome to this.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And to start with, may I ask you, what are your views on this particular theme that we have set up for today?
Yeah, very good morning. In fact, the theme itself is very apt. See, let me give some perspective on this. See, from my organization point of view, when you are talking between correlation and retention and hiring, let me give you a perspective. In Maruti, our strategy itself is very different than many companies. In fact, we started as a public sector company, and maybe some of the practices have really helped us build on this. So what is happening is that almost 90% plus of hiring we do is through the campus route. So it's like, catch them young. And then we build the talent. So basically our talent strategy is focusing on building rather than buying. So you will not hear a head of manufacturing being hired for Maruti. It's the other way around. So we are happy that the entire auto industry is actually driven by ex-Marutian. So we are happy to create that kind of talent. Let me tell you that when we do hiring from the campus route, the very essence and purpose is that we catch them young, and then we are able to actually build them. And when we hire, basically we hire the best. We hire for lifetime. We we also believe in building kind of a culture with these people that we have a diversity mix and all those that we try to create. And if you look at the result that we have in the last 38, 39 years, is that our attrition is less than 2%. And sometimes we say that at least the attrition should be 5-6%. Why it is 2%? So when people join here, and I keep on saying that, basically the infant mortality in terms of, guys leaving us is in the first 3 to 5 years. And that is largely happening when they are, and we are an engineering company, so we have almost 80%, 90% engineers, and they have aspiration to go for MBAs. So they want to go for higher education, and our 70% of that category of the attrition, whatever 2% we have, is people leaving for higher education. They want to go abroad for higher studies, or they go to the best of these schools in the country. Nevertheless, whatever attrition that we see is for young engineers who are aspiring for higher education, and some of course join competition also. So not much of a challenge, but it's not only the hiring. Hiring, yes, we'll talk about it in terms of the strategy we do in terms of hiring. We not only look at the fundamentals of the candidate, but the career track and progression that we see is very, very stringent. We have run our own, kind of tests, all India tests. We run all kind of processes. We have interviews, and for MTs and all, we have various other, areas where we test them. Then they are onboarded. But the thing is that once they are onboarded, the kind of job rotation, kind of training, kind of role, kind of capability building that one is doing is what is actually helping in not only creating internal talent pipeline, but also keeping them engaged. So what is important is that mere retention will not happen only on hiring. It is a combination of what kind of enablers you are creating within your organization, so that the people are actually more than satisfied, in the sense that their expectations are met, their learning curve is sharp. And today, if you look at youngsters on whom we focus a lot, their hunger for learning, their desire to do more is much high, and you have to meet that expectation. Money is not the only criteria, let me tell you. And that is the reason that when you catch them young, you are able to build the DNA that you require in those people, which is the kind of values that you want them to grow with, the kind of core values that we create in them. And that is what actually helps us create that differentiating factor with the competition. So I keep on saying that, our people are our key differentiator, because if you look at product, technology and services, perhaps all the automotive companies would be same. In fact, some of them may have far superior product and far superior technologies also. But what differentiates Maruti from other is its human capital, its people. And when I say people, it is the right kind of people, right from hiring to their career building. So we'll deliberate further on this in due course, but this is some initial thoughts which is coming to my mind. Right, Kumar?
Thank you, Mr. Sen. I think very nicely that you put it across, developing the enablers in place. And I'm sure that perhaps would have gone a long way in creating brand equity that we have. I mean, Maruti as a brand equity outside for us as outsiders, and inside also, because as you said, the attrition rate is very low, and the attrition is probably for people going out for higher studies. I'm sure there's the job fit, the job culture, the work enablers that you have inside the organization go a long way to it. Thank you, Mr. Hussain. As we move forward, let me take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Mukund Rane. So Mukund is a director HR, Middle East, India and Turkey with nVent. He has a diversified experience in HR and corporate sales, R&D, finance, IT, manufacturing. He's worked in a whole host of companies, including Larsen & Toubro, Crompton Greaves, Mahindra & Mahindra, TAFE, just to name a few. He's worked in the Middle East, USA, Europe, just again a few of these countries that I talked about that he's worked in. And more importantly, Mukund is a Dale Carnegie certified trainer also. Mukund, welcome to the discussion. And
Thank you.
and as we move forward, can I ask you for your views on the theme that we've set for today?
Sure. Thank you, Kumar. In fact, let me start with the introduction of the organization so that I can explain further why this topic is very near and dear to our kind of company. So Nvent, many of the people in India may not be knowing what is Nvent all about. That's a fact. We know this is a fact, and that's how we actually work to make it happen that the most talented employee or the candidate joins our organization industry. So Nvent is basically an electrical industry. We are into electrical protection and connection business. So when I'm saying so, in simple words, any industry, whether it is residential, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is automobile or any industry, they require the electrical circuits and panels. Our job is to protect those circuits and panels. So that's why we deal with each company, we deal with across industries, right? So our business is basically a B2B business. And that's where when it comes to the organizations, most of the people who deal into the electrical domain of their respective organizations, they know our products. Okay, so when I'm saying so about introduction of this organization by the name Nvent, it's a very niche skill. Okay, when I'm saying niche, very limited candidates are available in the market for the required skills which we look for, and that makes us more challenging in terms of hiring as well as retaining the talent, right? So I remember a situation wherein I was in a meeting room with the business head, and we were talking about an introduction of a technology function, a totally new function which is different than new product development function. Okay, a very, very high technology kind of things which we were talking about, and it was difficult for us to look for a talent. And interestingly, my business head asked me a simple question: is it so difficult to hire a talent for this position? And I gave an equally interesting answer. I said, yes, it is difficult, but at the same time, more difficult to retain the talent once we absorb them. And since then, for the last 4-5 years, I would say we started focusing on retaining the talent instead of only hiring the talent. So prior to 4-5 years, the focus was about hiring. But since the last 4-5 years, the focus is on retention. How did we do it? Couple of things which I can explain here are something like, the right kind of onboarding and right kind of interview things, right? So we used to do a kind of simple interview, maybe number of panels were involved into the interview rounds. And based on the competencies, based on the job description, we used to see how fit is the candidate. And we used to take a decision, okay, let's go ahead. Right? But now what we are doing, a simple example, if I have to say, if I have to name it as an effective recruiting, okay, so the simple example is we started working on RJP, realistic job preview. It is something like we started inviting the selected candidate to the company before joining itself. And we started conducting a meeting between the candidate as well as the overall team of that particular function. We started giving a kind of visit, a kind of round to the entire plant or the office, so that the candidate will get a feel of what he is going to select as a job. So it's not only about a Word file or a PDF file about the job description, but we started giving a kind of realistic, a human touch experience to the candidate to make it happen. We call it as effective recruiting. The second thing, what we started doing is about the onboarding. Okay, so I'm sure everybody knows like induction is a part of onboarding. So earlier what we used to do is like a kind of group induction. Okay, whoever have joined across hierarchies up to a certain level, certainly, but function leader and above separate induction used to be there, but up to a certain level, a common induction plan used to be there, right? So what we started doing that depending on the position, we started designing the induction plan for that position, irrespective of the hierarchy in the organization. Because we realize if we are doing a kind of group induction process, it's just a tick mark exercise. I'm so sorry to say this, but that's the reality. We realize that. Okay, and that's where we started actually brainstorming and redesigning the overall induction plan specific to the individual need. Right. So this is about effective recruiting or onboarding. And the next thing which I would like to talk about is the motivation of an employee. Right. So once the person has joined, he or she has joined, what next? As I said, retention focus has increased in the last 4-5 years. So the next thing to retain the talent after selection is basically to motivate. Okay, to motivate about job satisfaction, to motivate about the overall productivity of the employee. Okay, how did we do that? By conducting, communicate, by increasing the communication forum, or by conducting the surveys, or we introduce a term in the overall organization which we call it as human connect. What is human connect? Human connect is nothing but to conduct a one-on-one meeting every month with every employee, between the manager and the employee, along with the HRBP, HR business partner, so that an individual can express any kind of concerns, any kind of feedback or questions he or she may have, so that he don't need to wait for the appraisal process to happen, or he or she will not actually get an opportunity to say that, I want to say, but I'm not getting an opportunity to, or I don't have a forum to talk about my concern. So we worked on that, and accordingly, we have seen that the employees' motivation level has increased. Lastly, I would like to say, we believe that, first impression is very important. But at the same time, what is more important is how to retain that first impression. And that's where we worked on right to left planning. Thank you.
Thanks, Mukund. I think that was interesting. The realistic job review, as we talked about, and going forward, the one-to-one meetings in terms of a human connect to keep them motivated. I'm sure all the organizations are looking at it big time. And I'm sure, in terms of the university perspective, we also allow our students in the last semester to actually work with the corporates, get a feel of the corporates. And we've seen more than about 99% of them convert into PPOs also across both engineering and management. So I think this is something which perhaps is going to be the new trend in terms of the prospective employee getting to know the organization, feel the organization, and the employer trying to understand the prospective employee also. Thank you, Mukund. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Forward, we will definitely deliberate on that. Ladies and gentlemen, going forward, let me introduce Mr. Manoj Sharma. Manoj happens to be the head HR at Adani Electricity. And he's an HR professional who's worked in a lot of areas, including pharmaceuticals, starch and allied chemicals, textiles, iron, steel cold rolling, electrographied rods, just to name a few. He's worked with Adani Green Energy, Adani Power, Adani Infra. Manoj, wonderful to see you again, and welcome on board. And would definitely look forward to hearing your views on the theme as we go forward.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Manoj, will request your views on the theme of today's discussion.
See, hiring is a very critical element of the organization, how the organization gets built. By my experience in Adani, we had been into large, size and scale matters to Adani. We have built up the largest projects, which are largest in the world and largest in the country, and single location renewable energy businesses. We operate with varied business models and varied operating models. Our hiring strategies make a lot of difference when we recruit people for various businesses and having varied operating models, because all the models are very different. If I say that single location solar modules, those are manufacturing at one single place, those are the largest in the country. That means we need to have the operating level people at the large scale, maybe the supervision like engineers, they will be less because those are the world-class manufacturing plants. But if I talk about renewable energy, those are pan-India business models where we are like working parallel, say 10 locations or 25 locations parallelly. And the bandwidth to complete those projects are just 6 months. So within 6 months, if we have to hire people, so what are those hiring strategies so that people don't leave us during the project? And then if they stay with us, and how we can keep their cyclic interest so that they continue with us for the lifetime till the projects are there. So those are very, very different and very odd challenges we come across. And it is not that we succeeded at first place. We had changed the strategies during the project itself, from business to business, from operating model to model. So hiring of say 1,000 people within 10 days. So those are the challenges, and they should not leave the organization till the project is completed. So those are the mandates of the business and the state governments, where the the entire tariff will change if we are delayed by those deadlines. So those are the challenges which we operate, and we make sure in the talent, when we are hiring the talent, that which level we have to hire, from where we have to hire. If I'm talking about thermals, so when we came up with thermal, we completed 10,000 megawatt, which other companies are not able to complete even what they had predicted. So now there was no private sector company which was holding so much of manpower. Like Musarrat rightly said, we had thought of building the, rather than buying, we thought of building the, talent within the organization. But then how to kickstart 3 locations having, 9,000 of megawatt in the country. So how to do that? So we had very detailed, laid strategies. Maybe going forward, I'll share, certain experiences that will be worthwhile for absorption. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manoj. That was very interesting. And I remember meeting Manoj with, a few programs that we had discussed in terms of solar energy. We ran a solar GT program with a lot of corporates. And it was interesting talking to Manoj and the team also. Thank you so very much, Manoj, for making it for today's discussion.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I'll welcome Mr. Tom Verghese. So Tom happens to be currently the HRBA for APAC with Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. He's also worked in different areas of HR, including operational HR, strategic business HR, HR response management, just to name a few. He's worked across the different segments also, including logistics, IT, ITES, telecom, automotive. He's also worked with companies like Aditya Birla Group and HCL Technologies. Welcome, Tom, to this discussion, and thank you so very much for making it here. So, Tom, can we also have your views on the theme as we move forward?
Yeah, thanks a lot. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity where I think I'm learning more than what I can contribute because there's an esteemed panel who have so much of experience. So, as many of you said, hiring is a very important aspect when it comes to retention of employees, and how do we do that has a huge implication also. Going back to the story of Fiat Chrysler in India, Fiat Premier came to India in 1951. That was one among the 2 cars which everyone knows. But at some point of time, Fiat exited the market, and then Chrysler came separately, and they merged sometime in 2009. So for some point of time, India was looked as a low cost country where you get products. It was predominantly a supplier base, and we started our office way back in 2007 in Chennai with just 5 employees, looking at sourcing, agreeing that the specs are meeting. Over the period, today we are close to 3,000 employees in India, where we were able to prove the talent availability, the talent capability, the speed to market that India as a hub, India as a nation was able to deliver to the larger country or the larger company. Now we spread across 150 markets. So it's a huge company with 250,000 employees across almost all the countries in the world. Now, why do India has the third largest R&D center outside US and EMEA, Turin? It is because India, from a very strategic perspective, is able to add value to where the organization wants to go forward. Now, the challenge that automotive industry, I'm sure Musrat Hussain sir can also vouch to that automotive industry is going through one of the most difficult tectonic shift, which I'm not sure. I've seen telecom going through that disruption in India, and I'm seeing that. And unfortunately, I'm part of all those industries when the shift happens. So what is really happening with us is we are moving from a pure mechanical to a pure electronic technology-based vehicle. Over from 1980s to today, the complexity of a vehicle has multifolded a couple of thousand times. There was a time when fossil fuel was the only source. Today, it is just one among the sources. So in such instances, where is that we want to go further, and what is that differentiator talent can build in? From that, the hiring strategy, what kind of a source mix we want to have? Do we want to buy or make our talent? An organization which is there for 40 years may be able to do that, but for an organization which is still building and growing in India, we have no other option but to go and invest in young talent. And that is what we are doing today. We have tie up with so many institutions across the country. We hire from the top tier institutions for our graduate trainee program. We have partnerships, university partnerships, where we do contribute in terms of what is the academic inputs that we want to have from the students. We have technology incubation centers with some of the premier institutions where we get inputs and how we can further work on. And it's not just the hiring that helps in the retention. We do have a comprehensive development program which involves individualized learning path for every employee, and it has to improve every year on year. We do have global exposure, which we provide to our employees, where they get to work hand in hand with counterparts who are technologically much advanced. Maybe they are in US, they are in Turin, wherever they are, they get to work on that. So we give these kind of opportunities through which the retention happens. Obviously, our attrition is not very bad when it comes to the market rate, but again, we are not the best in the market in terms of attrition. But with all those things, I truly agree that the business strategy feeds into the talent strategy, and that should feed into the hiring strategy. And that has a huge implication on retention, because many a times, organizations becomes a training center, and that is not a very positive sign for any organization to be.
Thanks, Tom. And interestingly, if I were to share, my first company after my engineering was Fiat, and I was working with the brand Fiat Premier, though it was for a year before I went on to do my MBA at XIMB. But honestly, that period of 8 to 9 months that I worked with in terms of job fit, job culture was really, really very good, because when I went on to do my MBA, I think Mr. Hussain talked about aspirational values. Even then, I remember, Fiat saying that if you want to do an MBA, why are you resigning? I mean, we'll help you do your MBA, come back and join us. And incidentally, the same job culture I'd seen with Maruti, because with Phenolux Cables, when I was a national product head, when I was interacting, I used to feel very awed with the kind of work culture that Maruti had. I think that was something, Mr. Hussain, let me tell you, when you walk into the office of Maruti, you feel a different awe altogether. So, and the same, of course, with Adani also, when we interacted with Manoj. So wonderful having you, gentlemen. And as we move forward, we'll start with the question answer sessions. We will have a question directed at each of you, where we solicit your views before we take questions from the audiences. My first question would be for you, Mr. Hussain. It would be that, we would like to know from you that what metrics are used in the hiring process for employee retention in the long run?
See, let me give you some perspective on that. We have as I told you that largely we do hiring from campus. So when you are doing a campus hiring, we look at the kind of their functional capability, which if somebody is coming from IIT or from the best of IIMs or best of the B school, they are intellectually rich. There is no question on that. So what we focus more on when we actually hire them is their attributes, their attitude, so we have something called STAR framework. So STAR. So when we say STAR, so when we do that, our interviews, our question is actually focused on that. So S for STAR is situation. So we ask lot of question from people, where, when, and we probe a lot. So that is the situation. Then we talk about next one is T, which is task. So we ask students that to describe the challenges and expectation and give some example, why, how, and all those. Then there is action. A lot of people do a lot of project within the college, or they have some good experiences. So this is action. So what exactly happened? And then we focus more on result. So this is what we call STAR concept, where we use a lot during campus hiring. Then we do a lot of assessments. We do kind of psychometric assessments. We run various kind of tests, basically just to understand the personality, the cognitive abilities. Basically, we look at people who can fit into our culture, people who have long-term thinking, people who want to come and build career here. See, I go to campus and I clearly, when we first do the introduction part, first thing I tell the student that if you are thinking of becoming a general manager or a CEO in next 5 year or 10 year, please walk out of this interview. Because we are building career. So you have to have that kind of patience. If you really want to become a CEO or you want to become, something like that, either become an entrepreneur, join a startup, go to an organization which can give you that kind of organization. But we are brick and mortar company. You will grow brick by brick, and you will have a sky as a limit. And we have a lot of functional expertise or capabilities where people grow as expert. So we have various track within the organization. You may be a journalist, but you may be more of the people are a specialist basically there. So you have to be prepared for that. And that kind of orientation we do from very beginning, not only when we are sitting there. So you have buddies, you have people from same colleges and all. We keep on interacting. We build that employer value proposition. We focus a lot on building that. We have partnership with various engineering colleges and B school. So that really builds up. So their seniors and all are able to articulate and do that branding for us. Now, that's how Maruti becomes a dream company for engineers. And when they are coming here, they have to be very clear. So because when I talk to them, they say, sir, I have ideas, I can build a car. Fine. You are very enthusiastic, that's fine, but building a car is not that easy. And when you are making a commercial production, it's all the more difficult. So when they come initially, they are actually lost. They feel that even within engineering, you have so many domains, so many multiple domain and so many expertise. So they really get lost. And that is where HR and the company plays a big role in terms of their induction, settlement, various job rotation, exposure to Japan, and those kind of things. When they are given and when they are given responsibilities, they become part of a car project. Like for example, when Swift was launched globally, half of the engineers, young engineers, were from India, and they are proud that Swift became a runaway success globally. And rest is history. People are being involved in various projects. So what I'm trying to say is that this is something which is very important. So the kind of focus that we give on people during campus hiring is something which is very, very basic, but it actually works. But when we hire laterals also, but they are youngsters, so there is not much of a difference between what we do in campus and what we do here, because at senior level we don't hire at all. Only in some new area where we don't have talent. For example, we started reality. And when Mr. Siddiqui was given this responsibility, we had actually no one who was into this reality business. So we had to go out and get talent from the market, but that is exceptional. But in the core functions, we build talent rather than buy talent, and our focus is uh, more on the attributes part, because somebody who is cracking CAT or going through all kind of examination before entering into engineering or MBA, they are brilliant guys. There is no doubt on that. But we do certain tests to ascertain that also. That's very, very important. Marks is also very important. So that is what we focus on, the hiring piece.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. I think very nicely you put it across in terms of creating that employee value proposition. I mean, very nicely said, because we talk about creating a value proposition in sales and marketing. But I think internally creating that employee value proposition, treating the employee as an internal customer, that's something which organizations like Maruti have looked forward to. Thank you so very much, Mr. Hussain, for your views. My next question would be to Mukund. Mukund, this is something which is very much in the news today. Everyone in every organization, every individual that we meet talks about work-life balance, and more so in the new normal and during the pandemic times, work-life balance has come to the forefront big time. My question to you is, what would be the role of work-life balance with respect to retention in an organization today?
Great question. Thank you for asking this question to me. This is very interesting topic for me. So, let me give you an example, a personal example maybe. I am a badminton player, okay, and I love to play badminton, in fact. So I have a group of people, group of my friends with whom we play. And then, like I remember one of my friend, I was just chatting with him, like I saw him after many days in the badminton court. So I was like, what happened? Why are you, sounding low, or, why energy is low? If I have to say in HR words. So he gave an answer, I'm planning to leave my job. I'm not enjoying my job. There is no personal life. Yeah, there is no work-life balance. These are very, very common sentences, which I hear from many people, and I'm sure many of you who are into the HR profession must be hearing this, right? My work-life balance is not so good, or I don't find my personal life, okay, personal time. So having given this example, actually I started thinking, okay, what is work-life balance and why it is so important? Okay, so when I'm saying what is work-life balance for Nvent, my organization, we realize that we are very young organization. Young, I mean to say our average age of employees is like early 30s. And having said so, many of them are, not married, or early age of marriage. And that's where we realize that, people are looking for work-life balance. So when I'm saying early age and, young generation, yes, there are employees who are into their 50s also, right? Isn't it important for them? Yes, it is important, because they also want to spend some time with the family. They also want to spend some time on their own personal habits or personal development, right? So work-life balance is a topic which is important to all generations across hierarchies in the organization. So then the next point was, okay, why is it so important for work-life balance? A basic question. So maybe three basic things which I can list down. If I have to say why work-life balance is important for the benefit of the entire group, that, it is basically helps to reduce the stress level of an employee at the workplace, or it helps to increase the job satisfaction. Or in simple words, organizations also understand that work-life balance is important because, it helps to increase the productivity and creativity from the employee side. So if it is known fact that, there are several benefits of putting the work-life balance in my organization, we started thinking, okay, what is the need when we say work-life balance? And we realized that being a young employees organization, employees do not like when organization puts some restriction that you need to do like this, you need to follow these kind of policies and rules. I am not against, please don't misinterpret me, I'm not talking something bad or wrong against the policies, but we realize that, you know, more and more control which we are putting, more and more the dissatisfaction among employees is happening, and that is reducing the productivity of the employees, and at a larger extent the work-life balance of employee is somewhere getting, you know, not working the way we want. Okay, so the example which I can say on this, what we have done is basically we said, okay, let's introduce the concept of flexi working hours, or, you know, working from home, which are very common things. But at the same time, being a manufacturing industry, it was very important for us to have the discipline. Okay, discipline in the sense 9 to 5:30 kind of job, or, you know, first shift, second shift, third shift kind of things in the plant. We canceled everything. Okay, when I'm saying we canceled everything, it's like, you know, the focus we shifted. Instead of the working hours, the focus is now on the productivity. Okay, what is the work which has been assigned to the individual? Is he or she is doing that job? Then it's perfectly fine. How much time he or she is spending in the organization is not critical for us, right? And that's where, when I say about the Employee Connect or HR Connect, or, you know, surveys which we conduct, the kind of feedback which we receive from the employees is like, you know, now I can definitely say that the organization is giving more opportunities to balance my work as well as life, my personal as well as professional life. And you know, these small things which we have done, the employees feedback is like, we are now getting more flexibility to work on my own development, and, you know, to pursue my own habits maybe. Thank you.
Thanks, Mukund. I think that's how you know, organizations in India are looking forward flexi hours, and as long as productivity is met, it is important for me to ensure it's more productivity that is met rather than policing around them as to how many hours does he actually spend in office. Thank you so very much, Mukund. As we move forward, my next question would be to Manoj. And Manoj, wanted to know from you, what hiring strategies are adopted to prevent attrition in the short term and in the long term?
Yeah, thanks a lot. So as I earlier said, hiring strategies matters and mattered the most to us because of the project organization. We go by our operating models. For example, I said about thermal business. So when we started thermal, so we wanted to know that what exactly is available in the country, the talent pipeline and the type of technologies available in the market, and type of technologies we have or we are planning to induct in our business model. So for example, we were having supercritical and subcritical technologies, and maybe in the market like PSU, like NTPC, they were having 250 megawatt and we were running with 660 megawatt. Now, how to align this? So there is you cannot have a job fit kind of a situation here. So when the technology is not available at all in the market, how to go about it? If we are creating a new business for the first time in the country, which no one has, we can't even think of building at the first stage itself and nobody's there. So we started with that type of business models. And for us, it was very difficult and very challenging that how to cope up with at the project stage itself, so that we not only meet our deadlines as committed to the state governments, but also we come up to the expectation of our stakeholders and we make money, not by reducing the tariffs which we receive from the state governments, but also we build up on that and we show to the world that yes, we have the ability to do something very different when we think about size and scale in the country. So one of the foremost hiring strategy that we adopted was matching with the operating model. 100 megawatt people who are working in 100 megawatt projects, maybe we'll try to put it in frontline executives. and at leadership position, people who are available in the country, and can we map them directly at the 330 megawatt or 660 megawatt, and maybe gradually we move those talent leadership people from 330 to 660 over a period of time. And that is how we created the entire talent pipeline in the industry. We had believed initially that we will hire from the market, but it was again challenging that how we can create inside those leadership pipelines those who can not only fit for today, they are fit for tomorrow as well. We have come up with the first of its kind, our own Adani Institute of Infra Management, which nobody had, and nobody had thought of doing that. So every year people are, the students, the experienced employees, they pass through that, they come from different industries, and then they are available not only for us, they are available for the market as well. Second important hiring strategy we kept in mind that the people whom we are hiring, for example, the short-term projects like renewable energy. Now, if the project time is just 6 months, how we can create their cyclic interest? Hardcore people versus people who have blended experience in the market. For example, if there are hardcore project people, if they have the aspiration sometime when they are working with us, would they like to get absorbed in operation and maintenance, or they would like to continue with their core that they are aspiring, with us in Adani itself. And then second lot of people, because everyone cannot be absorbed. Those are very low, manpower intensive businesses where hardly 10 to 12 people get absorbed, including 1 or 2 engineers, and rest of people are very experienced from maintenance point of view and the niche skills point of view, where hub and spoke models we created as a operating model, so that there are 50 megawatt project and in the surroundings, say 650 mega projects are there and 100 megawatt project is there. So 100 megawatt becomes the hub and rest become the spokes. So there are more number of people which are available in the 100 megawatt, and they can rush to those spoke businesses where they can't afford the cost, but they are available to maintain the supplies and operating expenses as well. So now, to balance this, we wanted people with blended experience of O&M and project, so that 50% of the people, they get absorbed in the O&M stage when we are commissioning those projects, and rest of the team members who aspire to continue in the projects from one project to another project. So we meet their aspirations. So that is the second. Third, we kept in mind, that's from leadership point of view, that can we think of taking people from a different organization rather than from the same organization. So, leader at CEO level or CXO level, we are not hiring from the, say, renewable business itself. So renewable itself is was challenging when we were building up. So we thought of inducting from very different businesses. It's a leadership. So why can't he provide leadership to a particular business model? So after having an understanding and very clear understanding that what exactly we are expecting from him as far as P&L is concerned, as far as expansion of those projects are concerned, and then right type of those people who are available, who can complement or supplement those roles wherever our leader is important, but then technical skills, those are available in the market. So that we try to build up those teams, and those leaders became very successful in leading those projects independently and then as a CEO of those organizations. Fourth, we kept in mind when we are, hiring. So hiring does not simply mean just filling up the box. It is that the, like Mukund said, it's creating an heart and soul touch when a first call goes to a candidate, whether that's a experienced candidate or it's a leadership position candidate. The first call that is made, that is very critical. Even the consultant is making a call. So the consultant, what all that he will bear in mind to create a brand value of Adani, what all he will try to understand the aspiration of the candidate. So that itself filters or inspires that person It is not only he recognizes that Adani is an organization where he's aspiring for a career, but we make sure that the psychological contract that gets established by the first call itself, that is done. So our 50% job is done when we filter that, those aspirations, the value propositions, and the kind of value and culture that we have in the organization. The first discussion that may get lengthy. Maybe we have to, I personally have made calls in the middle of night, say after 10 o'clock, to those leaders who are not available during the NTPC time. And they said, maybe because of their working style, they are not available. I said, fine, you have dinner, we'll have, chat if you are awake. They said, yeah, we sleep around 12 o'clock. I said, fine, let's have a chat, 10 to 12. Like I had been traveling many parts of the country, but that does not mean that I am going for hiring. If I'm going for something else, my team will make sure that I meet at least 10 leaders whom I can depend in future. Maybe I can know them well, so that my leadership pipeline is almost like ready. We map. If you ask me now, I am in distribution business that was acquired from Reliance in 2018, August 2018. So we were having 100% mapping of people who had been working here. So when we create an new organization, we know that who is working in the market and which level of people they are working. Whether we really need those people who are at the top of the position, or we really need people who are at the second level of the strata of the leadership. So we are clearly understanding the need of the organization first. That is the first starting point. So if I do not know that what my organization requires, then probably I will land up in trouble in creating my hiring strategies. I will not be clear that what type of match I am looking for in the market. So we will not only look for job fit, we'll look for culture fit, we'll look for environment fit, we'll also look for whether he's fit to work with an ex leader or not. That is also very important. Attrition, when people leave, generally, it's a very common phenomenon. People say people leave for leaders, not for organizations. So we make sure that whether this person is able to, and that is how, if we are trying to do those psychometric tests, we make sure that psychometric test, even the Thomas profiling, that matches with the profile of the leader and the peers with whom he's going to work. We go to that extent of detailing, so that if he's coming here, he's coming, like Musarrat said, people have to work through the cadres to make the careers. But then when we are looking at Gen Z who are in the college right now, we have made changes in the organization. Believe me, 42,000 line items received to make those changes in the policies. So whatever policies we dissected, and we decided that if the average age of Adani Group is just 33 years or 34 years, and the next generation which is coming, whether we are really aligned, our policies are really aligned when they come here and would like to enjoy those benefits. So we firmly believe in organizational equilibrium. Organizational equilibrium is that whatever inducements people think in their mind about job satisfaction, or good pay packages and the work culture, so they expect that something more than the contribution, the time the employee is spending. If it is proportionately more, the research says if it is proportionately more, the employee definitely what is intending to stay in the organization, we can actually influence those decisions which he's thinking to leave the organization. So rather than leaving the organization, we focus on retaining the talent, and which matters the most, that is more important. So dysfunctional positions, that is kept on the radar of my CEO and myself. If those are 10 to 15% of people who are who adds value in the business, and they are very critical to us, so we make sure that we make their job difficult, and we give them most difficult and challenging assignments. The proud that we all carry by working in this organization for more than 12 years, the same proud, if that entrant, whether he's coming from the college, if we can carry that pride that I am part of that history, that is what we do that. So we do what we say, what we do, and what we do, what we say. So that resonates the same language within the organization, so that any leader that walks it, whether those are alumni, when we take alumni in those colleges, they help us in shortlisting those students with the help of teachers, and we pick up the best. And one thing is very important. Now I don't go to the colleges, but when I used to go 10 years back, uh, we used to identify, I used to call them white horses. So I'm not hiring them for today, I'm hiring for future. That is what the opening statement we used to make. And we used to see the potential in those people that who are having the leadership capabilities and leadership potential, who can take my projects. Will you imagine if my average age in the Adani Group is 34 years? So believe me, there are young people who are leading the sites, the young people who are leading the sites, having 50 megawatt projects, equivalent to those who are retiring. So we try to create an environment which is enabling environment. Even if the people are retiring, those people are available as an advisor to those people, so that leadership pipeline is created. Now, the other last dimension I would like to say that now Mr. Karan Adani is already there as an executive director and holding many portfolios. So we are creating an organization for him right now. Maybe he takes over in next 5 years or 10 years. The leadership pipeline is getting built up right now. We are identifying those people who will be available as CEOs by his time when he's taking over fully the Adani Group itself. So those are the, we always feel that, we take that pride. We are an evolutionary organization and we create leaders. And when we create leaders, we instill the sense of pride in them that they work whatever we have or whatever our promoters have. And that is how we have come up with a lot of those concepts. And we make sure that during the discussions itself, not only the hiring discussions, but when we are creating a psychological contract with those candidates, we aspire them to join us maybe in 1 year, 6 months or 2 years. Those are already there, identified, and we keep a contact with them, and they are part and parcel of our daily discussions, sometime offline, WhatsApp, social media. We keep them in our radar. And that is how we need not to tell that now this X project is there. So people are there who will be onboarded within 15 days itself. So those are the hiring strategies. I'm not going into much details, but those are the high level of strategies we keep. Otherwise, the kind of projects we lead and the kind of expansions those are going on, those are phenomenal. And that would become very challenging if we don't pay the attention to our hiring strategies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manoj. I think you rightly put it across, in terms of talent, to prevent talent attrition, what is important is getting them into the aligned with the organizational culture, the goals, and then going forward. And I must say, when we talk about alumni, I was very heartened to hear one of our alumni who works with you in your HR department calling me up from the 2018 batch, calls me up and said, "Sir, I would like to talk to you for, looking at good profiles." And I was so happy. He says, "Kena, I'm leading a particular unit for West." And talking about the Adani Group, I must say, a lot of similarity between the thought process that the Adani leadership has and my leadership. So we have a collaboration with Adani here in terms of the tribal school in promoting education.
Yeah.
So I think leadership matters, yes. So we in the organization.
Earlier, only my profile used to get changed, like from business to business every 3 years. Now it is a mandate that all the HR people, all the HR leaders, even at the down hierarchy, all roles that will get changed. Nobody is authorized to stay in one role, in one function, in one business for 3 years. So people have to move. So that is how the new competencies, new environment, new leadership, that is how that keeps on churning and gives a lot of, leadership bandwidth to operate. And that is how we are transforming this organization. This is a 93 years old organization from BSES to Reliance and then now Adani. We are making a complete transformation, bringing up the younger people and giving them more power. We are empowering them. And maybe in the coming time, my average age right now is 49 here. And my mandate is to bring down to Adani level, 34 years. So those are the mandates we are working and then making the organization young, more forward looking, And yeah, those are the efforts going on.
Very interesting, Manoj. In fact, and I'm tempted to make this comment that, as a young university of 15 plus years, we have been, accorded an Institute of Eminence status by the Ministry of HRD. And all these, has been because of the leadership. We have Dr. Samanta
Oh, wow.
as a leader who, leads by example. He has the vision. So I think as employees, everybody's ingrained into that. So I'm sure, just thought of bringing that perspective also, attrition rate in the university.
We have hired many engineers from kids in the past.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
First batch, 450 boys from the, in one shot, 1 year we wanted to hire. So kids was part of that.
I mean, I must thank you for that, Manoj, and I look forward to a lot of collaborations with you also going forward. And I must say, all our students who worked with you have come back and said this is a wonderful place to work with. I think that's been really a start point of that. Thank you so much, Manoj. Going forward, I would like to ask Tom. Tom, what do you think is the correlation between talent turnover rate and job fit during the hiring process?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. I think I do see a huge correlation with regards to job fit and retention over the period during the hiring. And I'm thankful to Mr. Sharma, who did touch upon the fit, not just in terms of the KRA or the work that the person need to deliver, but also in terms of the cultural fit. I think more than the role, it is the culture and the quality of the role, that job, that determines the person to stay for a longer duration. So, as an HR mantra, we always say, hire right first time. And as an organization, we do a lot of effort to ensure that we communicate the job description to the hiring manager, clearly spells it out to the talent acquisition person, who in turn shares it out with the employee, be it a graduate engineering trainee or even experienced hand who comes in. And it certainly helps when the person stays with us long term, have a very less heartburn later, for both from an employee side and from an employer side. We should always understand that when we look at job fit, it varies from the perspective. For an employee and for an employer, it's from different angles, right? Employer looks more at the skill and how well the employee will perform, any specific behavioral challenges that I see, how does the employee's cultural or value system, does it align with the organization? So these are some of the parameters on which employer assesses an employee. There are multiple tools, everybody does it. In fact, Thomas PPA, almost everyone uses it. There are multiple psychometric tools available today to check on, understand what kind of a value system the employee has. Now, from an employee side, I believe that employee needs to look at, a candidate needs to look at the job that he is taking, or the role that he is taking. I always love this Narayana Murthy's statement. He says that love your job, not the organization or anything else. That's what will take you through the period. Someone who loves the job, someone who enjoys the job, has a higher satisfaction, higher recognition will come over the period, and certainly the growth. Now, how can an employee or a candidate verify whether he's taking the right role? Obviously, there are multiple ways these days. There are portals available, n number of portals like Glassdoor or even LinkedIn. Anywhere, you get to check on the score, the comments, and you can even do ref check. In an industry like ours, automotive, everybody is connected. I often see that when we have a candidate in the interview process, one of our own employee will come and say, this person's interview has happened. He has not come to know about what is the stage. Can you just share some information? So there is a very easy network available where specific details with regards to the organization, the team, even the manager quality or manager style of operating can be checked. Sad part is many times when employees get the opportunity to check, they often check on sometimes leaves or what is the appraisal system. So focused on the percentage of hype they are getting instead of the role growth. I often feel or believe that only if you're able to get, let's say, 30 to 50% of a non-monetary enhancement on your role, be it in terms of the role opportunity or the technical scope that you're working or the future growth opportunity, somebody should make a jump, and that certainly will help. So I would say that if compensation, benefits, brand name, a good office space, these are all very attracting factors in the beginning, but it is actually the job fit that provides satisfaction, recognition, and growth to an employee. It in turn helps the person to be more productive, more useful, help the person to take more challenges and grow. So how do we do it? We often have, we do this behavioral event in the interview. We have trained our hiring managers to do that. Additionally, HR does it. So we look at how well the employee fit into the requirements of the job. We have something called a value alignment. There is a workshop an employee joins. We take the employee through that, and we map individual value with the organization value, and we have an action plan which is laid out based on that, which certainly help the job fit to be assessed and further taken through it. So what I was trying to say is that it is extremely important when it comes to retention. Job fit is very important. Additionally, today the world is all about experience. So ensuring that the employee gets a pre-on.
I guess he had.
I realized I had a problem with the connectivity.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where did you hear till when you were able to hear. I'm not sure about that as well.
We missed out the last couple of seconds. That's it.
Okay. So I was saying that as equally important along with the job fit is the experience that a person gets it. Be it the pre-onboarding connect, be it the onboarding experience that the employee get, and even the first couple of months. We realized that if an employee gets a very good understanding and a satisfaction and an alignment with the organization for the first 3 to 6 months, obviously the person is going to stay with us for a long term. Being a very young organization of just 10 to 12 years, we have close to 70% of our employees who are above 5 years of experience with us, which certainly helps us looking from a retention perspective, looking from a growth perspective, and as an organization, we benefiting from the technology hub that we are creating in India.
Thank you, Tom. I think that was very nicely put across. Thank you so much for this perspective. We had quite a few questions coming in from the audience, but I think some of them have already been answered by the panelists. Somebody talked about compensation. Tom just talked about that. Somebody talked about the new hiring process and the new normal. I think that also has been touched upon. So I will take 2 questions from the audience and I'll open up to any one of you to respond to it, or any one or maybe more can respond to it. I will open it up to all of you. There's this question that has come in which says, what role does data play in strategizing for hiring with respect to retention metrics? In terms of the role the data plays in terms of retention. Any of you could?
See, let me answer that. See, data will play a big role when you are hiring a lateral or a leader. See, the analytics available on that person and what company is looking for, the data will play a big role. In fact, when mass searches is done, even blockchain and AI, all kind of tools are being used where you have to do mass hiring or you have to do niche hiring. Data is very, very critical, and data, irrespective, even when AI was not available, no hiring was done without a data. You just go and hire somebody just like that, doesn't happen. Data was always playing a role. In fact, the dissemination of data in a mass scale is possible because of AI, because it is possible because of all kind of technology, blockchain and all those being made available. And companies are coming up with innovative practices in terms of reducing time and accuracy of hiring. All this is, in fact, the cost also is going down because hiring is a huge cost in terms of time spent on hiring and whether the quality of hiring is right or not. Data and AI and all these kind of tools will actually help eliminate those kind of error and help us zero down on the right kind of candidate. Now, whether that candidate hiring and attrition has a correlation or not, it is, I would say, in my view, in my experience of 3 decades, maybe 30% of would be relevant on kind of hiring you have done. But 70% largely depends on what kind of environment you are giving to that person. You may buy a Mercedes, you may buy a best of the car, but if you don't have the right kind of road or right kind of driver or right kind of experience, you will crash that vehicle. So don't blame the vehicle. Nothing was wrong in the vehicle. So company is not wrong or candidate is not wrong, but they have to seamlessly come on a platform where the person is having his aspiration filled. Companies are able to create those enablers, create growth path for that person, create avenues and opportunities. The work culture is good. So everything is important as you hire a candidate or at entry level or at any level. What is important is what kind of environment or platform you are giving. And people from different layer, different people have different requirement. So it's very challenging. In fact, so hence the data understands the person. Today, if you do run a algorithm on LinkedIn and things like that, you will know a person. Like for example, if a person is a job hopper, and if you do the analysis, you find that his stay has been less than 2 years or 1 year in any company. And if you put those parameter while searching that you want somebody who is somebody who stays for a longer period, all those kind of candidates are getting eliminated. You put a kind of a stringent bar on say qualification or marks or compensation or you have so many analytics that you can put and data will help you. Otherwise, I remember my days when not even computer was fully existent, mobile never existed. The advertisement was given in the newspaper and people used to apply. Now what you do is sit down and go through each CV, dig out, and there are chances of error because 1,000 10,000 application you cannot screen, and you will then sublet or you tell some subordinate to do it. That used to be a tedious task. Today all this is seamlessly done and you get the right candidate at least for hiring. But retention is largely dependent, almost in my view 70% dependent on what kind of environment, platform, culture, what kind of leadership, growth, and all those that you are giving to the candidate. That is very, very important.
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. I think that was very nicely put across that, I'm sure the exit interviews that we had earlier, the data from that perhaps will help us looking at the enablers and creating strategies thereof. Very nicely said, Mr. Hussain. Thank you so very much.
One of the best practice Marriott do when they open up the laptop or computer, there is a set of smileys they see. They have to click one smiley. So the minute they click the smiley, the laptop will open. Now the administrator will come to know immediately which country, which region, which state people are unhappy, or people are happy, or people are moderately happy or sad. So right in the morning, 9 o'clock, a person sitting who is monitoring the data, he comes to know and can call right in any of the country that, hey guy, why your people are showing sad? There are a lot of clusters in this scatter diagram. What is this happening? These are one of the best practices I have come across when I was part of the CII HR Excellence Award. I'm the jury there. So these are so interesting practices. Those are happening. 5 years before, we were looking for leaders having ability to predict. Earlier we used to say the ability to interpret the data. That used to happen only in the meetings and people used to throw only the data. And then when we thought that do our leaders have the ability to predict in future, the data science came right away. 2-3 years back, we started talking about data science. Now, with the help of machine learning and artificial intelligence, now things are so easy that everything can be analyzed. Like Musarat said, 1,000 CVs if somebody has to do with so many errors, you can't predict. So it becomes so easy for you to know not only the candidate's spec point of view, it is from his experience point of view, it is from what kind of psychometric test is giving those indicators, whether that can really match to that or not. That helps to fine tune your all hiring strategies itself. You do not to waste time of many hiring managers. The recruitment managers can be a little smarter and can save the time of those hiring managers, functional managers, and predict a lot of things before even they analyze further and screen through the entire CVs before even shortlisting. So those are the very significant technological advancements that has come. And one of the important thing which we have tried is a gamification. Gamification we found is much better idea than analyzing the candidate's profile, and maybe what we are looking in when we are doing the group discussions. So we can have a gamification tool available to the candidates at the college. So those are strategies I think organizations are utilizing now to have a better analytics only basis of the data.
Thank you, Manoj. I think when you talked about gamification, that was another tool that we have also created in the system, and we put students into the simulations also before they actually set for the real-time practices. And in fact, the second question that I wanted to actually ask, which came from the audience, Manoj, thank you. You did answer that in terms of how does technology in terms of AI and ML help in terms of so thank you so very much. We in fact have a long list of questions, but I'm sure on the paucity of time, we will send across the questions to the guests. And going forward, let me call upon somebody who's very well known to all the panelists, of course, Dr. Sanjay Mittal, who is, of course, very well known in the HR fraternity, is a CEO of Contemporary Solutions, has been with an HR leader with companies like the Piramals, the Goenkas, just to name a few, n number of awards that he has in the HR fraternity. May I call upon Dr. Sanjay Mittal to give his closing remarks?
Thank you, Kumar. It's really a pleasure to hear all the panelists. Thank you, Manoj, Mukund, Nusrat, and Tom. Very enlightening kind of discussion. Any discussion which is around people is always a learning, because there is nothing which is standard for human behavior. One person behaves in this manner versus second person behaves in very uniquely different manner. And therefore, one of the biggest mistake some of us did was standardizing the processes and standardizing the policies by thinking that one size fits all. And much later did we realize that it doesn't. I remember in one organization that I worked, where retention was a challenge, the line managers came across, and this was the IT organization, and said that, I need to spend more time with the team over the weekend. Therefore, you give us an allowance for socializing allowance for me so that I can take my team for a beer. And, there was a huge justification that was made at the board, and we granted that allowance. One of the group, we found that despite this being allowed, this gentleman continued to lose the people. And one such event, when it happened, I happened to be on site that day, and I met this person who was leaving. Saturday this happened, and Monday this lady was leaving. So she told me very interesting thing. She said that, you know, we really enjoy having this session with my boss, but I don't drink. I don't enjoy being at the pub. I would rather be allowed to do something that I do, which is to spend my evening doing some CSR work. And so she said, so I asked her, aren't you happy? She said, I get a pleasure to go there, but I'm not happy. Very profound statement that many times we confuse pleasure with happiness. And lots of enablers we put, which we think will make happy workplace, it makes pleasurable workplace. Because happiness is exactly at the core of your heart. It is not at the what you say, circumference of what you exist for. But I'm glad that we were able to establish very clear correlationship between employee value proposition and retention. And to walk this talk, one of the most important enablers out of HR are the people who are expert in talent acquisition. And unfortunately, in HR, we don't spend much time or relevance to this particular specialization called talent acquisition. I seldom see hands being raised at the campuses when people ask, leaders ask in HR, where you want to make your specialization. The hand goes up, L&D OD, training and development, compensation and benefit. Nobody says, I want to make career in talent acquisition. Because somewhere all of us made that function or sub-function very transactional, very SLA driven, to use the industry word. आपको बोला था 50 आदमी चाहिए वीक में, आप 50 आदमी ले आए, fantastic, you are A. But seldom we realize, and now organizations are realizing that the entry gate to organization is this most important flesh and blood relationship of employee value proposition versus the external candidate. And if that is not reflecting what the value proposition says, then there is a disengagement to start with itself. And as Manoj, I think, quoted that people join organization, leave bosses. Now that integrity of employee value proposition, if that's not in action in the organization, that becomes disabler and doesn't remain enabler. And therefore, the integrity of everything that you do in the organization, including what employee value proposition states versus what it behaves, doesn't happen. We will have people who will go away to our competitors. And that sort continue to happen in the organization, that where it doesn't happen to the fact. This pandemic, in fact, threw a very important facet of HR and leadership, which is the integrity of leadership behavior, which is the integrity of what you say and what you do, and which is the integrity of how do you carry people along with you. A lot of people created huge employer brand, employee value proposition saying that people are my biggest asset. And when push comes to shove, when the chips were down and the first quarter and the second quarter results were not out, what did we do? We first looked at, how do I do cost optimization? Oh, can we look at some people rationalization? As if that was the only option available in terms of cost optimization. Even in the organization, I can understand where people cost is 70% of your revenue, like ITS company. But in manufacturing, engineering, where it is 6%, 7%, sometimes at best 10%, people indulge into people rationalization. I'm not blaming them, they may have their reasons, but I think integrity of employee value proposition got challenged there and compromised there. And what happens in such cases is the good people that you retained with you also leave away, go away, because they realize that when it's going to be a sunny day, it's going to be hunky-dory. But when there are clouds, these people are not walking their talk. And therefore, I think leadership and HR has this important role of walking the talk in terms of employee value proposition, giving that entire employee experience the whole 9 yards. And I'm sure people therefore will stay with our organization versus the rest of the organization. Thank you very much. We can continue to discuss this topic, which is so central to every organization and its success. But thanks for your contribution. I really enjoyed being here this afternoon. Afternoon well spent. Say bye by saying bye to everybody. Stay safe. Pandemic is still not over. Challenges are still ahead. But I think championing people agenda is what all of you are doing. And that is extremely central in the times to come, where business models are changing, engagement models are changing. The gig economy is staring at us. People are looking at organizations, and organizations which will give their purpose and meaning to their lives. People will join those organizations and will stay with those organizations. Thanks a lot. Good day.
Thank you. And I must say, as Dr. Mittal rightly put it across, an afternoon well spent, a lot of learnings coming out, a lot of good discussions that we had. Mr. Hussain talking about the STAR model, Manoj talking about how the institutionalization of education, Adani Institute of Infra Management going a step forward. The panelists talking about building aspirations, employer value propositions, just to name a few, or I think the RJP model that Mukund talked about. A lot of good experiences, a lot of good learnings as we discussed here. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks all of you for your time, and I would definitely look forward to engaging with you on behalf of the university, along with my team, in different ways of academic industry collaboration. I will request my colleague, Ms. Kritika, to propose the formal vote of thanks. Kritika.
What a session. I mean, really very enriching. I would like to thank all the panelists for their time and the cognitive discussion. We look forward to engaging with each one of you in near future. I would also like to thank Dr. Sanjay for his real enriching closing remarks. And thanks to Dr. Kumar for moderating this session so very well. Special thanks to Ashish Gakre for all his help and support as always. I would also like to thank my colleague, Professor Shubhrat Behra from Electrical School and the entire team of School of Electrical. Last but not the least, would like to thank the entire corporate relations team for their valuable support. Thank you so much, all of you. Pleasure. And we look forward to collaborating in future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.